Hello everyone, I'm your hostess with the mostest, 8-Second Gaming, and in today's video we are going to be talking about the roles that are on a team and which legends fall into those roles. You might hear sometimes people throwing around the term entry fragger, secondary fragger, or even support, but what exactly does that mean? Well, we're going to be talking about it, breaking it down. But if you guys are here, it's very clear that you want to get better at Apex Legends, and if that is actually the case, then you need to check out the GameLeap website right now. Over there we have top level coaches, including myself, creating the best, most highly informative guides possible. No matter what you're looking to improve in your Apex skills, we have a guide for you. We have legend guides, gun guides, VOD reviews, and much more, so click the link in the description, pick yourself up a membership, and start to improve today. But okay, with that out of the way, let's hop on into things. And I do want to make two things very clear here first. Number one, there are legends that do fit into multiple roles. Some legends, depending on the team comp, can be either an entry fragger or a secondary fragger, or even a secondary fragger and or a support. But in this video, we're only going to be talking about their main roles, because then it gets a little less complicated. If we were to talk about every single legend's different role and how they kind of fit into them and play into them, then we'd be here for such a long time. And the second thing that I do want to cover quickly is the IGL role, because it is technically a role in a team, but it's not legend specific. You do typically see the entry fragger being the IGL because they're the first ones into the fight. They see kind of how stuff is playing out and they're able to make calls accurately, but that isn't always the case with every single team. If you're looking to pick an IGL for your team, it's basically just who has the most experience, who do you trust to make the good calls, and who do you actually want to be in charge? Who do you want the team captain to be? The IGL is just that. But okay, let's jump into the actual roles now, and to start off with, of course, we got to talk about the entry fragger. Now, the entry fragger is the first one on the team that is into the fight. Typically, these legends do have something to help them get out of a fight if things go south, but essentially they're just there to draw some fire and allow their teammates to push up with them. They also do want to have some form of team mobility, so if they're rotating or even in an endgame position, they can get their team from point A to point B a lot safer. If you're looking to be an entry fragger, you do need to have somewhat strong mobility. You need to know a few different movement techniques so that you can help yourself get into those entry positions, and you also need to have a very high confidence level when going into fights, because most of the time, while your team is still backing you up, you are alone for a short period of time. If you panic in fights easily, then you're not actually going to be doing your job very well, because you're going to not understand what you have to do and leave your team hanging. But if you still want to play the entry fragger position, the legends that fit into this role are Wraith, Ashe, Bangalore, Horizon, Octane, and Valkyrie. Now, Wraith and Octane are pretty self-explanatory. Octane stim, Wraith phase, those help them get in and out of fights, but also their jump pad and their portal help them, but also their team, get around from point A to point B. They can be used in multiple different situations in multiple different ways, and sometimes in endgame positions, those can be very game-changing abilities. Now, Ashe, Bangalore, Horizon, and Valkyrie are all kind of weird different legends that are now moving into the entry fragger position with meta shifts. Bangalore is probably the most surprising legend that is moving into the entry fragger role, because for the longest time, she was a secondary fragger. But right now, with the meta being super aggressive, Bangalore is now an entry fragger because all she has to do is smoke her feet with a scan character giving her wall hacks, and she is perfectly fine to be the entry. And then with Valk and Horizon, they have their jetpack, they have their gravity lift, they can move around a lot, they can do some cool movement techniques. And then Ashe is kind of a different style of legend because she really only has her portal, but her tether is very effective at locking people down. So as you're entering into the fight, you can single somebody out, swing on them, get the kill, and then make it a 3v2 very quickly. But now that we have our entry fraggers done, let's talk about the secondary fragger. And the secondary fragger, like the name suggests, you are the second one into the fight. You are there to back up your entry fragger. While they're taking the heat, you're dishing out the damage, and that's why as a secondary fragger, the only thing that's on your mind is typically kill. These guys are essentially just attack dogs. They are waiting to be let off the leash so that they can actually just go and shoot somebody. If you guys are Warhammer 40k fans, just think of these guys kind of as orcs. They just love to be in fights. The secondary fragger is actually a lot simpler of a role because there's not really a whole lot of responsibility that goes with it. You just are fighting. I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, I'm sorry, but that is just the simplicity of the role. If you are not a hyper aggressive person, you should not be a secondary fragger. The secondary fragger is the one on the team that is getting the most kills because they are just the one that is always in the action. And if that sounds like you, the legends that fit into this are Bloodhound, Fuse, Loba, Mad Maggie, Mirage, Pathfinder, Revenant, and Seer. Now, Bloodhound and Seer, they're basically the same concept when it comes to getting in fights. They are the two scan legends of the team. They're getting a lot of information for their team, but they also want to be able to capitalize on that information. Bloodhound can be insanely aggressive with their ultimate, having so much speed and momentum that you can just pop out from different directions constantly. And Seer can also play a lot of mind tricks with the enemy team, being able to cancel their heals, being able to cancel their revives, and just other stuff like that. But then you have people like Mad Maggie and Fuse who are just constantly causing chaos. You want to stand here? Nope, sorry, there's a riot drill or a knuckle cluster. Oh, you want to go over here? Nope, sorry, wrecking ball, or maybe even a mother load. Then you have people like Pathfinder and Loba who can get insane off angles while still being highly aggressive at the same time. Doesn't matter if they're playing very split from their team because they can either grapple or bracelet directly back to them or even use it to push if need be. And then when you get into Mirage and Revenant, they don't actually typically fit a role on a team. It's just kind of where they best fit right now in the meta. These two characters definitely need some buffs right now as the time of recording this script, but right now this is kind of typically where they do fit if you were to actually play them. Though I don't really recommend it right now, I'm sorry. But those are our secondary fraggers. Now let's move into support. And support is actually the role that I played when I was competing in ALGS, and this is actually the role that I made ALGS finals on. So supports will always have a near and dear place in my heart. But as a support, you are the backline for the team. You are the anchor, but you are basically just Overwatch for your team. If somebody runs into a very stupid situation, it's kind of your job to bail them out. And trust me, as a fellow support player, it's going to happen. Even if you have insanely smart teammates, something's always going to go wrong. So as a support player, you have to have a very clear mind while you're in fights. You have to be thinking about things that other people are not going to be thinking about, and you have to have very clear and concise communication with your teammates. You have to be giving callouts for other people as well, because if your Wraith is in a 1v1, their mind is on that. They don't really care about giving callouts because they are in the middle of something, so you need to be giving callouts for them. If you can see that the person that they're fighting is moving to the right, calm that for the Wraith because they're not going to. Being support is actually a very tough role to do because it's kind of like an offensive lineman on a football team. If you do your job properly, nobody really notices, but if you mess up, everyone notices. If you're doing everything perfectly, your entry fragger and secondary fragger get all the glory because they're doing a bunch of damage, they're getting a bunch of kills, but if you mess up a Gibraltar bubble or a Newcastle ultimate or something like that, you've just cost your team the game and it's kind of your fault. But if support sounds like the role that you want to play, the legends that fall into this position are as follows. You've got Catalyst, Caustic, Crypto, Gibraltar, Lifeline, Newcastle, Rampart, Vantage, and Watson. Now there are a few different playstyles that come with the different legends that fall into the support category. If you want to have area denial and kind of control specific spots for your team because you're going to be playing very strong endgame positions, then you want to pick somebody up like Caustic or Watson. Their barrel and fences allow your team to have very strong spots and make it so that other teams have a very hard time pushing you, and sometimes it's not even going to be worth the resources that it takes to try and fight you, so teams just won't. Or maybe you want to be gathering information for your team, kind of like a semi-scan character, but you don't want to go fully into the scan meta because you don't want to be a secondary fragger. That's where people like Vantage and Crypto come into play. Both insanely strong characters, but they have a very niche situation because they want to be playing a specific playstyle, and right now the meta doesn't really favor them. Or maybe your team dies a lot or throws themselves into bad positions and you need to be there to back them up and kind of revive them, so you can play somebody that has a strong reset ability like Gibraltar, Lifeline, or Newcastle. And then you have two legends that do kind of fit into multiple different categories, that being Catalyst and Rampart. Now Catalyst does have some pretty strong area denial. She can control spots kind of like how a Caustic or a Watson can because her spikes and her door blocking abilities, but it's not as strong as a Watson or Caustic. People can counter Catalyst pretty easily. Where her support strengths lie is being able to kind of funnel teams and allow your team to have a breath of fresh air, kind of like how a Newcastle ultimate does. But at the same time, she isn't as strong as Newcastle in that, so she kind of fits into like a weird Venn diagram of that, and it's kind of the same as Rampart. She doesn't have strong area denial, but she also doesn't really fortify locations well either. Now I know that some people might be pointing out that pro play is actually starting to pick up Catalyst and Rampart a lot, but Rampart is to specifically counter Bangalore right now, and Catalyst is just very strong in endgame situations. So there are very good specific reasons as to why they are getting seen in pro play, even though they don't really do one job very well. So if you're trying to pick a support, just think about what your team does and what your team needs backup in. If they need a very strong reviver, go with one like Gibraltar, Newcastle, or Lifeline. If they need area denial, Caustic or Watson. If they need a little bit of extra information, Crypto or Vantage. But if they need somebody that can do kind of fortification and also area denial, Catalyst or Rampart. But let me know if you guys have any questions about the roles in the comments down below. Do you guys want to stay up to date with the latest and greatest Apex Legends tips, tricks, and news? Don't forget to smash the like and subscribe button. Thank you guys all for watching. Once again, I made Second Gaming, and I'll see you guys in the next one.